You'd think with a show as popular as Doctor Who, every single little piece of footage would be properly archived, but it turns out that's not the case, with many classic episodes being lost to time, and today we'll discuss their disappearance. For decades, Doctor Who has had one of the most dedicated audiences in the entire world. While people often forget or simply never cared in the first place when media is lost in other genres, fans of the British series will put in the time and effort to get to the bottom of each and every case. And believe me, there are a lot of them. Let's start by going all the way back to the 1960s when Doctor Who was just getting started. From the very beginning, the show was a hit, but despite the program's instant success, many of the early episodes ended up getting thrown out by the BBC film archives. The first and most simple reason for them destroying the beloved series is that back in the 60s, TV was seen in a very different light than it is today. It may seem strange nowadays since television is held in the same regard as movies to most people, but back then it was seen as a much more disposable medium, and if a station wasn't going to air a program again, they didn't see a reason to keep it. So it was common practice to wipe out older TV show episodes to make room for new ones. On top of that, there was apparently a lot of confusion behind the scenes as to who was responsible for keeping these old episodes intact. You see, at this time, Doctor Who was recorded on videotapes and then converted to film to be sent overseas for broadcast. At the BBC, the film library was responsible for archiving media that was originally shot on film, with the engineering department being responsible for archiving videotapes. Because of the severe lack of communication between these two departments, the film library ended up trashing many classic episodes. The fact that any shows have been lost is terrible, but many of the junk tapes contained landmark moments in Doctor Who history, such as the final episode featuring William Hartnell as the first Doctor, and the first episode featuring his replacement. The second iteration of the Doctor was hit the hardest, as over half of his 3-season run on the show was discarded. Back in the day, few noticed the lack of these earlier seasons, but as the decades went on and more technologies were made available to watch older content such as cable, home video, and eventually the internet, people started asking where they could find old-school Doctor Who. Recovering these lost stories proved to be a very difficult process. Since the show was serialized, with each plotline taking up around 4 to 6 20-minute episodes, it meant that even if they were able to recover an entire episode, it was only a fraction of the whole arc. Audits of the BBC Film Library and Engineering Department turned up a few scattered recordings from various stories, most notably among them being parts 1 through 3 of the final First Doctor serial, The 10th Planet, as well as a tape of the unaired pilot episode. Following another search at a BBC property, many more episodes were uncovered, including the entirety of the landmark 7-part story The Daleks, which was the introduction of the show's iconic villains. 10 years later, during another audit of that same building, over half of the episodes from the second Doctor story, The Ice Warriors, were also found just sitting in a cupboard, going unnoticed all this time. Since the BBC frequently distributed Doctor Who to be aired in other regions, the search ended up going international, with episodes popping up at TV stations across the world. Most notably, the entirety of the second Doctor story, The Tomb of the Cybermen, was found in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, they discovered all parts of The Enemy of the World and The Web of Fear. Excited to get the episodes back to clean up for distribution, they had their affiliates in Africa send the cassettes back to England. But when the shipment arrived, The Web of Fear Episode 3 was missing from the tapes returned to the BBC, and to this very day, nobody knows where they went. As a result, in subsequent re-releases of the serial, the episode is replaced with production stills displayed over surviving audio. Outside of BBC archives and international TV stations, lost Doctor Who episodes have occasionally ended up in the hands of ordinary people who acquired the tapes at auction, or in some cases just recorded the original TV broadcast off their television. In most of these instances, the person in question had no idea of the value of their collections, Most of these episodes have turned up by complete happenstance, usually when BBC executives get in talks with private collectors at conventions. It's entirely possible that every currently lost episode still exists out in the world somewhere, with the tapes just sitting in someone's basement collecting dust. But even if a serial is not available in its entirety, the BBC has made efforts to restore the missing episodes in any way possible. I've previously mentioned how they coupled production stills with surviving audio to recreate parts of The Web of Fear, and the same is true for other stories such as The Wheel in Space. Starting in 2006, they began hiring animators to recreate missing episodes. This began with fully animated versions of episode 1 and 4 of the second Doctor story, The Invasion, and then they later went on to do stories such as The Reign of Terror and The 10th Planet in the same style. By 2016, they began getting more ambitious. They set their sights on the story The Power of the Daleks, of which there were no surviving episodes, only audio. From scratch, they had to painstakingly reanimate every scene of the 6-part series. Since then, they've continued making fully animated versions of completely missing serials, most recently releasing the story Fury from the Deep. Many people have criticized the animation in these recreations, saying that they look stiff and cheap, but it's pretty much unanimously agreed upon that it's better than nothing. While we have talked about a lot of interesting lost tapes so far, among all of the missing Doctor Who episodes, there is one that stands out from the crowd: 1965's Mission to the Unknown. This episode was meant as a prologue to the 12-episode spanning epic The Daleks' Master Plan, and featured none of the show's main cast members, instead focusing on a new group of characters, as they uncovered the latest evil scheme from the series' most iconic monsters. Like many of the episodes discussed today, all footage from it is lost, with only audio and production still surviving. However, it is unique in the way the BBC went about recreating it. Rather than using animation, students from the University of Central Lancashire remade the entire episode scene for scene in live action. The recreation was posted to the official Doctor Who YouTube channel in 2019, and was praised across the board by fans for how accurately it captured the look and sound of the show from that era. While early UK broadcasts suffered from poor archiving, by 1978 the BBC officially ended their policy of throwing out old tapes, as home video became a more viable commercial medium. They changed their film library to the Film and Videotape Library, to ensure that there would be no more confusion between departments. This effectively ended the era of lost episodes, but if we go deeper down this iceberg, we'll find plenty more examples of lost Doctor Who media. We'll learn more about this after a brief word from our sponsor. Have you ever purchased something off the internet and thought to yourself, man, I really wish I got some free Bitcoin out of this? Even if you haven't, Loli can help make that concept a reality. Loli is a free browser plugin and mobile app that gives you free Bitcoin when you shop online. They work with over 1,000+ stores including Best Buy, Lululemon, Nike, Postmates, and so many more. It's so simple to use you could actually start in 2 clicks and less than 30 seconds. Here's how it works. First, you add the Loli browser extension to Chrome, make a purchase, and then earn Bitcoin. It's as simple as that. So if you want to try it for yourself, click the link in my description or go to lolli.com/ref/GFM to start earning free Bitcoin when you shop. Over the course of any television show, there will always be many episodes that are written but never actually produced, and Doctor Who is no exception. Most of the time, this is for very boring and standard reasons, such as the script being too ambitious for the show's budget, or the story being too similar to a story told prior. However, every so often an episode goes unmade for bizarre or even tragic reasons. Let's start in the 1970s, during the era of the Third Doctor, played by Jon Pertwee. This period of the show was marked by the introduction of the new nemesis for the Doctor known as the Master, played by actor Roger Delgado. Despite playing archenemies on TV, in real life, Pertwee and Delgado were very close friends. This bond led to an excellent on-screen chemistry between the two. Originally, the plan was to end the show's 11th season with the story The Final Game. Little is known about what this story would have been like, but a few details have surfaced over the years. Some claimed it would have revealed that the Doctor and Master characters were actually brothers all along. But the one aspect of the script everyone can agree on is that in the end, the Master sacrificed himself to save the Doctor, redeeming his character and concluding his story. Sadly, in June of 1973, Roger Delgado was unexpectedly killed in a car accident. Following his friend's death, Jon Pertwee decided to step away from the Doctor Who character, as he no longer found joy in it without Delgado by his side. The final game was replaced with the story Planet of the Spiders, which would be Jon Pertwee's final episode of Doctor Who outside of anniversary specials. The character of the Master still appears frequently on Doctor Who to this very day, but it seems as though the planned twist of the final game will never come to fruition. We next jump forward to 1980 during the 17th season. At this time, the show was well into the highly successful era of the 4th Doctor, played by Tom Baker. During this time, the job of Doctor Who's script editor was being done by acclaimed sci-fi writer Douglas Adams, best known for his book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The original plan was to end season 17 with the story Shada. Written by Adams, it would have followed the Doctor and his companions investigating an ancient prison planet. The script was completed and filming began, but a strike by BBC technicians ground production to a halt halfway through. Because of this, Shada had to be scrapped. With Douglas Adams' legendary status as a science fiction writer, Shada became something of a myth amongst fans, some of whom believed it would be the long-lost masterpiece of the series. This has led to many attempts to revive the story over the years. The first came in 1992 when the BBC released a VHS using the already shot footage, as well as new narration from Tom Baker linking the scenes together. This was a start, but most fans agreed it was not the ideal way to experience the story. In 2003, the production company Big Finish, who has the official licensing rights to make Doctor Who audio plays, decided to try their hand at reviving the story. However, at the time, Tom Baker had yet to sign on with Big Finish, so they had to get creative. Rather than making a full-on recreation, they opted instead to do a sequel/remake of the original. Instead of the 4th Doctor, this version used the 8th Doctor. In 2012, a novelized version of Shada was published, but it just wasn't the same as a full-fledged production. It wouldn't be until a few years later that these fans would get their wish. In 2017, the BBC released a new version using all the footage originally shot back in 1980. For all the scenes that went unfilmed, they brought in the entire original cast, including Tom Baker, to voice over brand new animated scenes. With this new release, fans widely agreed that this was the definitive way to watch Shada, and the book was closed on this Doctor Who legend. The next stop on our journey through Doctor Who's history takes place in 1986, during the tumultuous era of the 6th Doctor, played by Colin Baker. This period saw many confrontations between Doctor Who's showrunner John Nathan Turner and the controller of BBC One, Michael Grade, who made no secret about his disdain for the sci-fi adventure show. Grade believed the series was very cheap looking, as well as being too dark and violent for its intended child audience. During this time, Doctor Who had recently concluded its 22nd season, and the 23rd was already well into the scripting phase, with quite a few stories being fully written. However, a new demand from Grade to make the season shorter caused a lot of these scripts to be completely scrapped, negating weeks of hard work from everyone involved. Thankfully, in 2009, the previously mentioned company Big Finish began their Lost Stories range of adventures, in an attempt to revitalize these unmade episodes. Under this new banner, they produced full versions of all these stories that never got to see the light of day on television. Let's move on to 1989, towards the end of the classic series of Doctor Who during the era of the 7th Doctor as played by Sylvester McCoy. During this time, the show was clearly on its last legs, fighting for survival and trying every outside-the-box approach to remain on the air. The script editor at the time was a man named Andrew Cartmel, and he had an idea to completely flip everything fans thought they knew about Doctor Who on its head. This scheme was later dubbed by fans the Cartmel Master Plan. Cartmel's goal was simple: to restore the air of mystery that the Doctor had when the show first began in 1963, as he felt it had become lost over the years. The exact details of what this plan entailed aren't too well known, but it would have revealed the Doctor to be a reincarnation of the other, a mysterious figure who was instrumental in the foundation of the Time Lord Society. Hints of this concept were sprinkled all throughout season 26. Most overtly seen in the story Silver Nemesis, in which a mysterious character claims to know the Doctor's real name. As you might expect from the theme of this video, the Cartmel Master Plan never came to fruition. The idea was to plant the seeds throughout season 26 and do a full reveal in season 27. However, season 27 never came to be, as Doctor Who was quietly cancelled by the BBC after 26 years on television. Despite never being fully realized, bits and pieces from the Master Plan have been used in various Doctor Who external media, most notably the novel Lungbarrow, written by Mark Platt. On top of this, Big Finish yet again adapted a few of these stories of the cancelled season. Even though Doctor Who was off the air in the 1990s, there was still unmade episodes during this time worth bringing up. During this decade, there was some discussion amongst TV executives at Fox to revive Doctor Who on American television. Originally, the plan was for this series to be a complete ground-up remake of the old show, following none of the same continuity of the original. Writer John Leaky was hired to pitch what a new version of the beloved sci-fi series could be like. This resulted in him writing a series outline dubbed The Leaky Bible, and its contents have horrified Doctor Who fans for years. Leaky's idea was to no longer have the Doctor be a rogue Time Lord who simply traveled because he loved adventure, but instead a man searching the universe for his lost father in order to save the Time Lords from his old nemesis, the Master. This outline featured many reimaginings of classic Doctor Who monsters. These included the Daleks, now robot spiders under the control of the Master, and the Cybermen, who would now be called Cybes. These ideas were never used, and Leaky was let go from the project as Fox decided to make this new series a continuation of where the classic show left off. 1996 saw the release of Doctor Who the movie. This was meant to be the pilot for the new Doctor Who series, but failed to capture the attention of the American audience, leaving the show once again dead in the water. In 2005, Doctor Who was finally revived by the BBC to critical acclaim, under the direction of new showrunner Russell T Davies. During the premiere of the 2005 Christmas special, The Christmas Invasion, BBC's Red Button service aired an interactive adventure called Attack of the Grask, in which the viewer used the buttons on the remote to help the Doctor defeat an alien. Now, Attack of the Grask is not technically lost, since re-uploads of the entire thing can be viewed on YouTube. However, if you actually want to use the story's interactive features, you might be out of luck. After its initial airing on the BBC Red Button service, the game was moved over to the official Doctor Who website. Unfortunately, at some point over the years, they purged all their old web games from the server. The only way to play it now is on an out-of-print Doctor Who Season 2 DVD box set. They're not all that expensive from the secondary sellers though, so Attack of the Grask isn't necessarily as lost as other Doctor Who adventures. But it wouldn't be a surprise if this disc became a valuable collector's item at some point in the future. So there we have a pretty comprehensive look at all the lost Doctor Who media out there. And until it comes out, we'll just have to keep on looking. So until next time, thanks for watching.